think this room is bugged. That's why.
No, I think you just have roaches.
Really loud roaches that put out, like, data signals.
Loud electronic roaches. That's your problem.
Welcome back, folks. This is Comiholics, episode 34.1, and you're probably wondering, why is it 34.1?
You know, they probably aren't. They're probably just like, yeah, point one. These guys are weird. They can just, whatever.
Or maybe they're wondering why it took so long.
No, they don't. They're just like, yeah, whatever. It's another show. It's
okay. Maybe you're not wondering anything at all.
But
welcome back to the show. I'm your host, The Apocalypse, and over here to my right is Dirt, formerly known as PhD.
I'm guy eating pizzeria pretzel combos.
That's right, just a guy eating combos.
Drinking lime Red
on a
Bull
Sunday
gin.
night. I've had 2 cups of coffee off the next 2 days, so fasten your seatbelt, folks. This is going to be a very long night.
So why is this point one?
Well, somebody left their cell phone sitting next to the laptop, and
why is that a problem?
That the signals crossed over the wire. I don't know the technical. You tell the folks.
You don't cross streams.
Yeah, you don't cross streams.
That's what it comes down to. No, so we actually recorded this episode, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And I went home to edit it, and first, half hour, whatever, was fine. And then someone apparently picked up their cell phone to check it and then set it back down on the table right next to the laptop. So for the next hour and a half, it's all... Oh,
it's bad. And I was proud of that show, too. Like, we both, smiled after the show was over. We could tell we just, enjoyed it.
No, I was just so tired that I was delirious.
Yeah,
it was
delirious.
just thank God it's done.
Are we done talking? God.
I just want to go
You did a
home.
lot of talking, so, it wasn't just me. I am a talker.
I need some more gin.
Anyways.
So, today we are going to attempt another run at the show. And if this one, for whatever reason, if this one goes bad, I think we're just going to have to retire.
Yep.
If this one doesn't work out...
What a shame, too. I was kind of thinking, at least getting our 70s before it was okay, we've been doing this a long time.
Nah.
We're still not getting paid. No respect.
Yeah, but it does get us all the women.
It does. And occasional free comic books.
So anyway, I guess before we get started talking about any individual comics themselves, San Diego Comic-Con was last week.
Right.
Was there anything at San Diego Comic-Con that grabbed your attention?
I wanted to see the Walking Dead tower with the fence around it, the whole booth that they had.
Oh, the booth? Okay.
Yes.
But I mean, were there any
I don't
know
what
news or anything?
I don't know. There is some news. Excuse me. There's some buzz with. Is it Boom?
I don't know. What's the rest of the story? Maybe I can help you out.
Boom is getting bought. No. I'm sorry. Arcadia is getting bought out by Boom. Right?
Yeah. Well, they're merging. Somehow. I don't know if they were bought out, but.
There's an exchange of hands, so to speak.
Yeah, Arcana is going to remain its own private studio, but as a part of Boom.
Now, I'm a bit naive. I don't know how much Arcana actually contributes to San Diego Con. I'm sure they're a presence. I'm sure they're there.
Arcana's had some financial problems ever since Borders bookstore closed because they were a big, direct to bookstore.
They're a partnership, yeah.
They sell a lot of hardcover books, and Barnes and Noble, Borders, those were their big.
Their books are
outlets.
beautiful. I mean, well bound.
They are book snobs. I mean, that's part of their deal.
Turd Ferguson, who comes on our show every once in a while, he's worked at I think he still works as a printer. So he knows good quality work when he sees it, and he was impressed as well. But
so I mean, that was interesting. But I mean, did you hear any news about comic series coming out? Or
I wasn't paying attention. Quite honestly, I wasn't. I mean,
do you just not want to spoil it for yourself, or you're just not that excited to look for?
I mean, I know it's the MechaCon where they're going to make the huge announcements. Marvel and DC is going to get up on their panel and shake the room with some new news.
Well, what about? Did you hear the news about the new Superman movie?
What about it?
Oh my god!
I haven't even seen the new Superman movie yet.
Well, you haven't seen the first one. Okay. Well, the second movie is confirmed.
Right.
And the second movie is going to be Superman versus Batman. They have confirmed that Batman, it's not going to be the same one from Dark Knight.
Right.
They're reinventing the character to be in the Superman universe.
Right.
The basis, the structure of the battle is basically Superman versus Batman from Dark Knight Returns, except it's not going to be old Batman.
No.
In the distant future.
It's like the New 52 Batman.
It's kind of.
And if you notice that DC has done, I think, a pretty good job of staying true to their New 52 in the movies. It's almost like a reflection. It's not quite the same, but you can see some similarities. You know, for example, I haven't seen the Man of Steel yet, but you can tell there's some tremendous similarities between the costume and the New 52 costume. Which it brings up another topic of discussion, because I was reading a lot of Batman lately, and
you dropped it.
I did drop it, yeah, but I was playing catch up nonetheless. But there are a lot of other different titles.
True.
You know, and you think about how.
Did you read Legends of the Dark Knight, or not Legends of the Dark Knight? Yeah, it's just Batman Dark Knight.
Yes, I did read.
You read that issue?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute.
But isn't it? I find that DC has a knack for making things seem together. Like, even all these separate titles all seem to be kind of following the same Bruce Wayne timeline. You know what I'm saying?
So they feel like they're connected to you.
Right.
Even though they're not one right into
they're
another,
all
right into another.
Yeah.
But they do feel like it's a coherent universe.
Yep.
I've always given DC credit for when they do crossovers with different titles. They do a pretty good job of
making a one story.
You need to read. Well, it's not like you need to, but if you read, like, say, Talon did a crossover with Birds of Prey.
Right.
Okay. If you read Birds of Prey, it can work as a standalone story, and hey, Talon appears. But if you read Talon and you go over and you read that Birds of Prey, it feels like it fits as a Talon issue, even though it's a Birds of Prey issue.
Which I didn't like Birds of Prey.
Well, but the point being, as opposed to in Marvel, where you'll have, like, say, Daredevil appears in an issue of Spider-Man, but then you go read Daredevil, and it's like nothing from the Spider-Man issue has any effect.
No.
Whereas in Talon, it does reference back to the Birds of Prey and everything. So I think DC does a better job of weaving a cohesive universe together. They kind of get into trouble sometimes, though, where they contradict themselves, and but I mean, that's going to happen when you try to weave it together that tightly. But anyway,
what other con news should I know? I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to go to San Diego Con. That's a lot of money for an old Midwest boy.
Yeah, I mean, we get free passes every year, just because we can get free press passes, and then also from running the store, we can also get free retailer passes. So technically, we could take like 8 or 10 people there with free passes, but you still have to pay for travel, you still have to pay for hotel, you still have to pay for meals.
That's the chunk that I'm talking about.
Going to like C2E2 for 3 days is an expense enough. I don't want to fly to San Diego and be there for a week.
Well, no, I disagree a little bit. I would love to fly to San Diego for a week. That sounds
what
fantastic.
I mean is I don't want to pay for it.
Right.
Is what I mean.
Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of everything in long and short of it.
Well, here, let me just run down some of this stuff real quick here. Because, I mean, there was a lot of news from a lot of different companies. Some stuff, stands out a little bit more than others. Let's see. Harley Quinn's getting her own series.
I knew that. Yep.
Written by Paul Miotti and Amanda Connor. Teen Titans Go is getting a digital comic starting in December. There's still some sort of secret with Stephanie Brown, Batgirl, because she hasn't reappeared yet in New 52. They were going to use her in the Smallville online comic based on the TV show,
right?
Because they wanted to have Batgirl appear, so the guy made it Stephanie Brown, and then DC said, no, you can't do that. You can't have the character for that. So then they had to use Barbara Gordon. They didn't say you have to use Barbara Gordon. They just said you can't use Stephanie Brown.
Right.
So there's something. Somebody asked at one of the panels,
"Where's Stephanie?
Stephanie Brown? And when is she gonna?" And they wouldn't answer her question, but they gave her a free Kindle for asking.
Wow.
So it's like, shut your mouth and go sit down, and here's a prize.
Well, and that's when I started reading Batgirl was with Stephanie Brown, and I thought
always
it was
liked
awesome.
Stephanie Brown.
Well, it was kind of like. you kind of had that down and out Spider-Man feel. You know, here's like a girl struggling in high school, you know, hiding her superpowers from her parents. You know, I don't know. I thought it was good.
Do you watch Saturday Night Live?
Not in a while.
Okay, there's a guy on Saturday Night Live named Taran Killam.
Okay.
Taran Killam, whatever. Anyway, he's co-writing a new book from IDW called Illegitimates. And the Illegitimates is basically James Bond, quote-unquote James Bond. Like, not really James Bond, but this super spy dies.
Jason Bourne.
And his 50 illegitimate children rise up to avenge his death. So all these illegitimate children from around the world.
Wow, he was a busy man.
Well, have you seen the Bond movies? I mean,
yes.
Well,
okay.
I'm just throwing out 50. I mean, it might be 6. But
I mean,
still.
you know.
But the whole point is that this super spy, this globe-trotting super spy, suddenly has all these illegitimates rising up to avenge him.
Octopussy?
Let's see. There's a new series coming called Cataclysm.
Okay.
Which appears to be the end of the Ultimate Universe.
Oh.
And it looks like, as far as the indications were out of San Diego, Miles Morales will probably be the only character that survives.
He's going to come back over
into the main 616 universe. Everyone else is going to be wiped out.
Wow. You know, there was some stuff I really liked about the Ultimate Universe. Like in the beginning, there was some
it
great,
fell apart
great
in the middle,
direction.
but I think the last year or 2 years of it, whenever they did the whole Civil War thing, has been great. Like, I like it more than regular Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
And it's only 3 books, which definitely helps. Let's see here. Let's see. Kirkman is working on something big for the 10th anniversary, but won't announce what it is.
Right.
Some people think it's a spin-off, a second series, but he won't say.
Carl. It's just going to be a book all about Carl.
Avatar says in September they are going to finally go digital, and they have a new sci-fi imprint coming. So they have their Avatar mainline, which is horror comics.
Do they buy up a
No. The Avatar is their mainline horror.
Right.
Then they have, was it Boundless? Which is like the Lady Death and War Goddess and all of that chick stuff. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to make a new sci-fi line to do science fiction type stuff.
Very cool. I'm sensing Doctor Who. Is Doctor Who already being done?
Yeah, Doctor Who is already being done at IDW.
Okay.
Let's see. Oni Press is making their own AR digital thing, whatever.
Well, isn't there some controversy with that? Because Marvel, for example, is going after ComiXology.
Okay, all right. We can talk about that a little bit. Not as of yet, nothing has actually happened.
Okay.
But somebody found that in the mid-90s, I think... No, wait. Back up here. In the early 2000s, 2000, I think it was like 2002, 2003,
right.
Somebody at Disney filed for a patent on software that moves from panel to panel, guides the reader from one illustration to the next illustration in a storytelling flow. And that's technically what the guided view is. That's technically what Dark Horse's panel zoom is. Marvel Digital has their own, what sequence, whatever it's called. So now Marvel and Disney bought Marvel. So now someone found this patent filing, and they go, well, now Marvel technically, if I don't know if the patent has actually gone through or someone just found the filing, but patents can sit there for a long time before they get processed or whatever. Someone said if Marvel ends up getting this patent and they have the rights, then they can basically turn to ComiXology and say, you either have to pay us a licensing fee to keep your guided view, or you have to shut off guided view and not use it again. So,
which Marvel had their own guided view as well,
right? But if you have a patent,
right?
Then it doesn't matter. Except someone found out that Dark Horse in the mid-90s had some sort of online comic book viewing software to promote The Mask.
Right.
and it took mask comics and would focus on panel to panel and zoom through the page. So technically,
Dark Horse
had a prior use.
But
right, so
pull out their trump card.
So there might be something there. And then even on top of that, there's another company called iVerse, and they make the Comics Plus app, and they do the Diamond Digital comics that you can buy through your local retail store. You can buy digital comics through your local retailer. And because I get a lot of mine that way, because I just get the code, and I just pay Damien straight up the cost.
Right.
They're working on their own panel-to-panel viewing software, and apparently somehow they knew about the patent application from Disney.
Right.
So they are designing their system. They don't have it in place yet. They don't have any sort of Zoom or panel Zoom or whatever. And people are always like, oh, well, iVerse, this is crap compared to ComiXology. Right. But apparently they knew about that, so they've been developing their own system that goes around the patent, that doesn't infringe on that patent. So it's still in development, and it kind of sounds like one of those things where they're waiting to see how this falls out, because if ComiXology suddenly gets theirs, then they're going to walk up and go, well, we have one. Come over to us. You know?
That's scandalous.
That's kind of a big deal. That's kind of a big deal for the comic industry.
I'm a ComiXology fan. I mean, I think you are too. We've spent a lot of money with ComiXology. You know, it's good stuff. Anyways.
So anyway, yeah, that is kind of a big deal.
Did you get all that, folks?
And that's one that I have been watching pretty closely. And there's some other developments that are kind of on the side of that, but things I can't really talk about right now.
Ooh. Mm-mm. We'll talk about it on the break.
But some neat stuff going on. So anyway, all right.
We got a lot of stuff to cover. We're going to kind of recover stuff we've already talked about. So.
Do you want to talk about anything now, or you want to take a break? Since we just talked about news and everything, do you want to come back on a clean slate? Or do you have some stuff you just want to talk about quickly and not get too in-depth with?
Yeah. Let's throw this out here.
Okay.
This is Christopher Ennett's work. I believe he is the creator, writer, artist. I met him at Artist Alley at C2E2.
Okay, you keep saying this is. What is this?
Fallen. I was getting to that.
Okay.
Fallen is basically a futuristic story, very Blade Runner-ish meets Total Recall kind of thing.
Okay.
Basically, the story is this woman who works basically like security for this government organization that has a colony on Mars to harvest natural resources for Earth.
Okay.
Natural resources are pretty much like gone, you know. And there is an alien race at the same time living on Mars. And they're kind of treated like second class.
Are they like native Martians, or are they people from another planet?
No,
that
native
also came
Martians. Native Martians.
I always thought it'd be neat if some. Well, anyway, go on. Continue with your story.
The art is beautiful.
So let me see this.
Yeah,
this is. Is this from a publisher?
This first issue, yeah. It just says C Comics. I don't know if that's his own. I'm sure it's his own publishing.
It is just C Design and Comics Studio.
CCComicStudio.com. But I want to give props to this comic because it's fast flowing. It's it's the first issue. It's a quick read, but the way the frames move in and out, and some of these bigger shots here, like I really like that. That's when you first see some of the.
You realize it's a radio show. People can't see it. But
well, there's a big frame.
Look at this page.
Well, it's like the 5th page in. You actually see a frame where you see the aliens that are indigenous on Mars.
I'd say the coloring on this is top notch.
And the book's well done for an Artist Alley book. You know, sometimes you get books at Artist Alley and you pay $5 and it looks like his 6-year-old stapled it together for him. You know, but
I'd say
her character, you're like immediately drawn to her character.
So what?
Not only because she's beautifully drawn.
What is her?
But
character?
She's kind of got this edge. Well, she works for the government and her job is to like keep things in line on Mars, like whatever they need done. She takes care of
assassinates people, or
if need be. But on the side, she also like is a tinkerer. Like she has her own shop, like where she works on mechanical things and stuff. It's and it was funny because when Chris was telling me about it, I kept thinking Total Recall in my head You know, I'm thinking, God,
Well,
this
because
sounds
it's
like
Mars.
Yeah,
I mean,
it sounds like
what do
Total
you do?
Recall, but it's not. It's got its own, and there's at the end of it, there's kind of a reveal where, you know, it's like the talking heads that are basically in charge of her, you know, are talking about what's going on, and basically there's like a crisis or a riot that's ensuing with the indigenous aliens, and they're trying to keep them at bay so they can keep, you know, colonizing and harvesting the planet. At the back page, he drew a little C2E2 picture of one of the aliens.
So you got a little sketch on the back.
Little
cover.
sketch, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, for a company you've never heard of, a writer you've never heard of, and I'm guessing the artist is a different person.
No, actually, I want to reach out to him, talk to him. He was pretty savvy. He talked about his book well and made me want to buy it.
Like, it does look top notch.
Yeah.
Like, it looks super professional. There are a couple points where the facials probably could use a little more work, but overall, and especially with the coloring, I mean, the coloring really makes everything crisp
It's
and
pretty.
pop, and some gratuitous anatomy shots in some of the scenes.
You see her rump quite a bit in the book, which is fine. I mean, you know.
Yeah, that looks really cool.
Yep. So, Fallen, check it out at cccomics.com. Christopher, it's a great book. Thank you for your time at C2E2. It was interesting to talk to him because, you know, he's talking about, you know, on-the-road life, you know.
Traveling to...
Yeah, and just, you know, trying to push his book. So, we're pushing
How long
your
ago
book
was
for you
C2E2?
here. April something or other. If you haven't caught on, I kind of parcel out my C2E2 collection. You know, if I pick up any independent books or whatever, I kind of like spread it out and talk about them as...
Well, do you have any
goes
other
on.
C2E2 books to talk about?
Well, we can talk about it later.
Oh, okay. You want to say?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about real quick?
No. Is there something important I should be talking about?
No. I'm just giving you the opportunity.
Okay. No. Great
Toss it
book.
out there.
Check it out. Pick it up. It's worth it.
Smack it up, flip it, rub it
That's
down.
right. Oh no.
All right, we'll be right back. So you wouldn't throw her out of your bed for eating crackers, is what you're saying?
No.
Fair enough. All right, guys, welcome back. Comiholics 34.1.
Eins.
So, are
Look
you
what
ready?
I have in my hand right here. We're just
You
talking about
have
this.
an issue of Batman,
22.
which is part of the 0-year storyline,
Right?
which I enjoy very much. I wish 0-year had been the first couple issues of Batman in the New 52. This is the story I've wanted since they did the whole reboot.
I'm quite the opposite. I'm struggling with it. And I'm a big Scott Snyder fan. So,
Well, apparently not big enough.
apparently not. I'm not loyal enough. Basically, they're kind of seeming some
Seeming some?
stories here behind young Bruce Wayne in this episode, or this issue 22. Some kind of backstory. Most of the issue is basically a backstory of Bruce Wayne and his beginnings.
Right. Well, it's called 0-year because
Right.
it's basically before he becomes
Right.
Batman.
But you see, you're getting kind of an induction into that whole premise here. So, and you're also introduced to this character right here,
Red Hood,
Red Hood,
the future Joker.
the future Joker. That's correct. So, that part's kind of cool.
Like, I love the stuff they put in there where it's like he's in the box truck and it's going to go off the bridge. Everybody's going to die. So he throws out his like grappling hook at the last minute and attaches to the building, saves everybody.
Right.
And you just see Red Hood standing there like give him a little golf clap for saving everybody's life. And Batman in disguise is just
Right.
laying in the water giving him the finger.
To be honest with you, I think my biggest problem with this is I'm just not a huge Capullo fan.
Well, that's fair.
And at the end of it, the Bruce Wayne in that one time with Scott Snyder, and James Tinian, the fourth.
The fourth, yeah.
Raphael Albuquerque is the artist.
Guy, and he's the guy from American Vampire.
Yes, and I really love that art. Like, I'm not even a big fan of American Vampire anymore, but I collected it for quite some time. And I almost wish that was the art for the book.
Mm. What specifically do you not like about Greg Capullo?
I think it's the faces.
Yeah.
You know? We've talked about this before. They're very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all the villains and all the superheroes all kind of big chins. And
right.
There's not a lot of detail with expressions when things are going on in the facial expressions. And I kind of struggle with that. And just, I haven't been a huge fan of it for quite some time. So I think it's kind of why I stopped.
See,
picking up Batman.
I like having his origin, and I like how in depth it's going, and I like the whole. There's always been this argument of, did Batman create Joker? Did Joker create Batman? You know, if there was no Joker, would Batman exist?
Right.
If there was no Batman, would Joker exist? And here you see Red Hood and Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. So it's like they have a connection outside of what we think of as the common relationship of Joker versus Batman, and I appreciate bringing another level of complexity to the two of them. So I don't know. I agree with you on the artwork. I've never been a big fan of Greg Capullo.
I struggle with the color too. I struggle with the color. I don't know. I just have trouble. You know, with all due respect, I
think I appreciate the story enough that I'm willing to overlook some of the problems with the artwork.
The story is great. I mean, I'm always been a Scott Snyder fan. I do appreciate the story. I just can't swallow the art. I think is
okay.
So there's that. And last time I talked about, I'm gonna pick up another indie here. Modern Tales of the Future,
as opposed to the archaic Tales of the Future.
Right. Dread Arts Company, I believe, is the publishing company. This is a compilation of several different stories. Consider it kind of like an Outer Limits type theme.
Not Twilight Zone? You go into Outer Limits?
No, yeah, it's more bizarro sci-fi.
Okay.
One story in this first issue, starting off, is a guy that's like in what appears to be a mental institution. It's called The Traveling Man. Written and illustrated by Matt Colander. I hope I'm not butchering that.
You probably are.
Yeah. But anyways,
it's probably Smith.
He throws a fit, walks out of the room that, like, there's always like that waiting room with all the crazy people in wheelchairs and stuff, and walks into another room, and there's all these people that are like plugged in. They've got these like cords hanging down from the ceiling, and they're plugged in the back of their heads, and they're all looking at him like, "You don't have a plug." Well, we can fix that for you. And the guy starts coming down with like this like drill.
Okay, so is this like one long weird story, or is it like a bunch of short stories? So
then it goes from that into this even more bizarre segment of The Traveling Man, where he's like at a diner, and in the background these aliens fighting, and then like a bigger alien shows up, and all this stuff is happening while he's talking to this other guy. And then that segues into another section where he is like basically with his family, and while he's with his family, or no, he leaves his family and then has like this mental breakdown, and there's like, he goes in this room and there's like all these different versions of himself, like in different phases of sanity.
And so is this the whole issue?
No. And then from there it goes into another story. What's the story called? It basically just like jumps right into another modern tale of the future.
So the stories are unrelated.
Completely unrelated.
So it's an anthology.
But they do wave in, yes, it's an anthology, and they do wave in and out. So, you'll have one story end, a new story begins, and then like 3 or 4 stories later, it picks up, that first story picks right back up.
Okay. How many of these issues did you get?
Just 2.
And so is there anything from issue 1 that reappears in issue 2?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There's one segment where basically this guy's like getting a haircut, and the hairstylist realizes he has gray hair, and it's kind of like this Logan's Run thing where like people are supposed to like, something happens where they go through this something where like they stop aging and they're not supposed to age anymore. Well, he's got gray hair, he's aging, so it's like this like Logan's Run, like,
So they're
got to
gonna
get out,
kill him for getting
right.
gray
Yeah,
hair?
I mean, he shouldn't exist, kind of thing. And then my favorite story is like this one. It's a bunch of aliens, or no, I'm sorry, a bunch of robots. The Earth. Are you okay over there?
Yeah, just my sandals are really stinky.
Basically, the Earth is devoid of humans. Like, all that's left are these robots. And, centuries go by. They don't really know how to exist, so they start trying to recall human myth to try to relate to on, like, how to live their robot lives. But it's all confusing and perplexed. It never makes sense.
Because they don't understand humans.
And they don't understand humans, and they're trying to use human myth to figure out their sense of purpose, kind of thing, and what they should do next.
So, what company is this from? Is this another...
Dread Arts Company. It's another indie...
So does
alley.
Does the artwork stand out like it's...
Some of the stories I really dig the art, and some of the stories I don't care so much for. But, I mean, as far as the artwork, the stories themselves I think are interesting.
So you think the writing is consistent, just the artwork is...
Yeah. But anyways, funny part with the robots is, so they try to better the world for their environment. So they realize that, like, all these natural disasters keep getting worse and worse. So they try to change the environment so they stop. So they fill the ocean with cement, to change the climate. Basically start this, like, modern ice age. So it's nice and cool. So their systems work better in the cooler environment. And then they're like, well, all these mountains and hills and stuff, they're in our way, I mean, it's much easier to just go drive flat. So they blow up all the mountains and hills and stuff and basically turn Earth into, like, this big concrete ball. And then at the end, and it's funny because it seems like they're all trying to struggle for their own robot individuality, but in the end, they all look the same, and there's, like, a factory making more of the same, and yeah, I don't know. It's a fun read. Both books were fun.
What's the cover price on those?
$4.99.
So $10 for the two. Do you know? Are there more issues, or do they only make the two?
I think these are the only two that are out, or at least during C2E2.
Is it worth $10 for the 2 issues?
Yeah, I thought it was fun.
That's like that's a cheap trade.
I thought it was fun. It's pretty well made. Too.
Would you read through them again?
Yeah, actually, I kind of want to because obviously we talked about this the last Comiholics. It's been a little while, so I apologize if I'm kind of butchering some of the premise here, but here it is. Here's the Earth is one big cement ball.
That is a big circle.
Yep. All right, so yeah, Modern Tales of the Future. It's I'm sorry I didn't name off all the other artists and writers, but
you can Google it.
Yeah. There's The Traveling Man, Safe House, Adventure Not, Another Day Older is from the first issue, and then that carries into, more stories of basically the same Modern Tales of the Future.
All right, what else you got?
Okay. Solution Squad.
Solution Squad. So, these are people in need of a solution?
No, they're there to solve.
Oh.
This first issue, $3.99, is called Primer.
What company?
Created by... Oh, you're going to call me out here.
It's not on the cover somewhere in the...
Solutionsquad.net. I think this guy does all his work. I mean, I'm sure he sent this off to be made, but...
Published by Solution Squad, LLC.
Right.
All right. So, tell me about Solution Squad.
Is
this like acids and bases solution?
No, this is a team of superheroes, teen superheroes, that all have mathematical powers to solve problems.
Like Rain Man?
No.
Oh.
No, they're not autistic. And basically the beginning of this issue, they're introducing a new character. They all kind of introduce themselves, and they go on an adventure, and you basically learn about some of their powers and what they're doing. Here's the guy's card. Jim McLean.
So, okay, wait.
So they all have specific powers.
So are they use math skills to solve the problem?
This comic book is for like.
Is this like Square One Television on PBS when we were in school?
But it's good. It's fun. I mean, it's fun. You know, my daughter, she loves math. I haven't given this to her yet, but I'm gonna have to. She's a little young, so I'll have to read it for her. But each of the characters.
She's 4. That's a little young.
No, 7. Not the youngest.
Oh, the other daughter.
Yeah, the other one. In the back of the book, it kind of gives you a list of what each of their powers are. You know, and they all do certain things.
So in the story, like, are they trying to thwart a bad guy?
Yes, they're... What's going on here? Again, it's been a while since I read it. What comes at them? There's this tank that's coming at them, and they're trying to figure out how to stop it.
And they don't know where it came from or what it's doing.
Right.
So do they like work for the government, or are they like a freelance?
Yes, they're like
group?
they work for the government.
So it's the government superhero math team.
Yeah, so they're trying to figure out basically how to take this thing down, and they break it down into a mathematical equation. Oh. And they solve the solution. You know, they come up with the solution.
Again, much like what we talked about a few minutes ago, the artwork on this.
No, it's for an indie. It's
kind of like Fallen. The artwork on this looks pretty good, and the coloring is obviously computerized.
Right.
Looks clean and looks crisp to it.
But they finally break into the tank and face off their bad guy here.
So the bad guy has a big question mark on his face?
Yeah, Riddler.
Well, I don't think they can call him Riddler.
Cheap Riddler ripoff.
That's his name?
Yeah, Riddler.
What?
Yeah, look, right there.
Whoa! Oh, we dropped the Solution Squad. Sorry about that. So you want
me to find it again?
No, it's the Poser.
The Poser, that's right.
The Poser. This has like an animated look to it.
Like I said, it's like for like a 10 to 13-year-old. I think would appreciate it.
Like this is the type of thing a math teacher would hand out to the class, and the kids would be like, "Oh, yay! This is the good homework."
Right? Yeah. I mean, we get to read a comic book in class.
Oh yes, you cheap Riddler ripoff.
Right.
Radical. You might not want to. Riddler, is it? Can your Riddler do this? And then his arms turn into axes and spike walls and swords.
He's like Plastic
Man.
Man.
And Thor's hammer.
Right.
It took you 183.2 days to regenerate.
He is a math teacher, by the way. I think I should point that out.
Oh, the guy who wrote it?
Yes, he is a math teacher.
So wait, does he also do the art?
And I think his wife does the art.
Created, written, and lettered by Jim McLean. Jim McLean! McLean! Get out of my airport! Penciled, inked, and colored by Rose McLean.
Mm-hmm.
So, I
think she's a teacher, too.
So she does the artwork, and he does the writing and lettering. And, just looking at this, just kind of glancing through it, the backgrounds maybe need a little bit of work, but otherwise, it looks... This doesn't look like a Artist Alley book. No. This doesn't look like, just somebody who has a whole lot of dream.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like there's actually some talent to this. And their costume, actually the costumes look pretty neat.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of looking at they all have basically the same type jumpsuit, but with different like logos.
It's kind
of
like a Tron-esque looking. I don't know, or Thundercats. Maybe that's what I'm looking at.
Tron, Thundercats.
Yeah, it's like
whatever.
Cross between Tron and Thundercats.
Oh, I see. It's like a flip book.
Right, on the other side is like all the background stories.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Who's Who or the Marvel Handbook, but they actually got some other artists.
Like one guy can like move laterally really fast, kind of like the Flash. One person can go vertically really fast. One person is good at memorizing problems and solving, coming up with solutions.
So it's like, okay, one of the artists here is Ryan Otley. Otley does a bunch of stuff with Image and the Skybound. Actually, is he the guy who does Invincible? Is that Otley?
Oh.
I'm not looking at anything. I'm just like looking in the distance.
So I gotta.
I'm trying to think of the guy's name, so my eyes just kind of wander off, and Eris is like trying to see what I'm looking at. I have an
Invincible comic framed on the wall.
Well, does that say Otley on the cover? Can you? Are there
I don't
credits
know.
on there?
It's one of those. Yeah, Ryan Otley.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this pinup is by Otley. This one is George Perez, Jamal Eigel, Jason Howard, Carlo Barbereri. So, I mean, there's actually some... maybe going to all the conventions and stuff, he met up with these guys and was like, hey, can I pay you to do... But, yeah, I mean, this looks... Actually, I wonder... Philip would probably like reading something like this, too.
I was thinking that. I didn't know if he was too young for it, but...
But, I wonder if they've got more than just the one. Because Philip will read... We've gone to, like, Barnes & Noble...
Right.
And they have books that are quote-unquote comics. It's like phonics comics.
Well, here, give this to Philip. Let him read it.
Okay.
And if he likes it, maybe it's worth giving McLean a call.
Maybe we can do it.
Let's have a child test it out and see what a child thinks with it, So.
McLean! Yeah, that's pretty cool. We'll have to check that out. All right. So that's Solution Squad.
All right, you're next.
Are you done?
No, I'm not done. I just didn't want to tag team.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Because you'll take this segment. We're almost 20 minutes into this segment. I'll take the next segment. So this is all you, son.
Been reading a lot of turtles. Ton of turtles.
I have a turtle head poking out. Is that the same? Is that? Oh, you're talking.
Do you need to go poopy? We can take a break now.
No, I'll wait. I'll hold it.
It's all those combos you're eating over there.
You say that
like
as
a squirrel getting ready for winter.
As if pizzeria pretzel combos are not a health food that are good for your digestive system.
Oh, you're going to spill your Red Bull. See?
No,
this show's going to be shot now, too.
No, see, this is the one that has stuff.
It's already shot.
This is a better show than any show we've ever done.
Okay, so, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles New Animated Adventures, issue number 1.
Based off a terrible new cartoon show.
But you know what? I like this. It's fun.
You like the comic?
Yes, I like the comic.
Because you can slow down the comic.
Yes. There's a lot of action in it, I'll give it that. But my daughter watches the new cartoon and the old cartoon. She watches a lot of YouTube of the old cartoon on the tablet. She's a huge Turtles fan. Love it. It's my one. I have 2 girls. I don't have any boys.
Right.
So it's kind of like I get a little bit of that connection with something boy related. Is
Callie going to be a tomboy?
They both kind of are, really. Well, no, my youngest is very much a princess. I'll take that back.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I like this. Basically, in this one, you're meeting all the characters for the first time. It's pretty quick. You're basically assuming that you know who all the characters are. It's not like they're restarting the series. It's kind of like a pickup.
This isn't like they took the first episode and turned it into a comic.
No.
This is like its own original story.
Right. So,
does it look like the cartoon, or does it?
No, it's different. The turtles look different.
Okay.
Their faces are more.
Well, it kind of looks like the new cartoon a little bit. Like you can tell that that's supposed to be Donatello.
I think April looks different, yeah. Well, in this one, April and Donatello go to like an abandoned military
that's
junkyard.
Wait, is that April?
Yeah, she's wearing a wig.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
She's been practicing her ninja skills. You learn that at the beginning.
Well, so but...
Splinter doesn't think she's ready to go out on assignment, but Leo takes her anyways. Obviously, things go wrong. And April gets caught, captured, so the turtles have to go rescue her.
So how does this new animated comic compare to like the old 90s cartoon?
It's not, no comparison. 90s cartoon's way better.
Okay.
No, this is more like, this is when I told my 7-year-old, I gave it to her, I let her read it. Her favorite part was when Michelangelo's like, not the pizza, And I asked her, I'm like, do you want me to keep collecting this for you? And she said yes. So it's like my connection with my kid with comic books.
Okay, here, let's
for a kid, it's great. You know what I mean?
Let's go to a quick aside here for a second. What comics do you get for your kids?
Well, in the beginning, it was really simple stuff like Toy Story,
But I mean,
Wall-E.
like now, is there anything that you get?
Not
like
much.
Turtles is the only thing
If
your
I
daughter
see
reads?
some Scooby-Doo, I'll get Scooby-Doo. She's going to start collecting Turtles. She likes Adventure Time.
Okay.
She doesn't read a lot, so when she sparked an interest for Turtles, I got excited. So,
Because see, okay, my son will read, of course, the Pokemon.
right.
He reads all those. But then he also reads Garfield, Peanuts, Sonic Universe, Mega Man, Aw Yeah Comics, back issues of Teen Titans Go, Batman Strikes, Batman Brave and the Bold, Superman
come on.
Adventures.
Look at her dad, or look at his dad.
And then my daughter likes Garfield and Peanuts also. She also reads all the My Little Ponies.
Right.
And then she also sometimes will read Adventure Time. She likes Ugly Doll, now has a comic, and she likes to read Hello Kitty manga.
Yeah.
And she's 5. You know.
So you're getting your kids hooked on an expensive hobby
My
early.
kids each... Philip has almost a complete short box of comics. And Libby has... it's like a first-class mailing flat-rate box. Post office box. That it's almost full of comics. And she's about ready to move up to.
So by the time they're teenagers, they'll be spending like $150 a month on comics.
Philip loves to go. You know, here in town, we've got what they call the Springfield Comic-Con,
Right.
which is really just half a dozen
vendors.
dealers in a room out at the Route 66 hotel. But he loves to go out there and he'll take like $10-$12 and dig through like the dollar boxes
Right.
or the 3 for $1 boxes, and he'll grab like Dennis the Menace from 1974.
Right.
And, like just the most random whatever. If it's an old Sonic, an old Archie, an old Richie Rich, whatever. And he loves them. And he'll read them over and over. And he'll grab that book, like I, being a collector, everything's bagged and boarded and whatever.
Right.
He hates bags and boards because it slows him down from reading them. So the first thing he does is chuck the bag and boards.
Right.
Then he'll read the
I'll
book.
take those, son.
He'll read the book, and Libby will do the same thing. They'll read the book until the cover falls off, and then the cover, since there's no story on the cover, they just throw the cover away.
Right.
Because you don't need it. There's no story to it. They just want the pages on the inside.
Right.
So they have got a bunch of comics that have no covers that they will read over and over and over again, and they love it. I mean, and good for them.
Yeah. That's fun. Reading is fundamental.
So that was just a little aside there. All right.
So
What's next?
More Turtles. Old Hob. Get a little backstory on Hob.
So now we're moving to the adult Turtles.
Right. In this story, you learn that I don't know.
There's like the
more about the color classics than I do.
Well, first of all, there's 3 different Turtle series. Well, I guess plus the kids, but 3 like grown-up Turtle series going on at the same time. One is the Villain micro series.
Micro series, yep.
There's the regular, TMNT series, and then the Color Classics, which takes the old Eastman and Laird Mirage Studios books from the 80s and early 90s and is coloring them and reprinting them.
Right.
Okay. So Old Hob is part of the Villains micro.
So you tell me, because I haven't read all the old stuff.
Okay.
You
So
probably
right now
have.
you're looking at Color Classics?
No, I'm looking at Hob.
Oh, okay. Old Hob
micro series.
Hob is a new character.
Right.
He is not in the old books.
Oh, okay then. Well, then say no more. In this one, you basically see Hob as just a kitten.
Right.
Being loved by a kid. The kid doesn't change the litter box often enough, so the mom throws the kitten out in the streets.
Throws the kid out?
The kitten.
Oh, okay.
The kitten,
I thought you were saying throws the kid out.
finds some turtles with ooze all over them, tries to eat one of the turtles, and then Splinter comes and rips out his eye.
Didn't they recap that in the regular series at one point?
Yeah, well, not in this much detail.
Well, yeah, but just kind of briefly
here's the page where, Hob, because he bit into the turtle with the ooze,
starts turning into the Catman.
He turns into the Catman. He goes back to Oh, darn it! This guy, what's his name?
Stockman.
Stockman.
Baxter Stockman.
Yeah, he goes back to Stockman. He gets tested, experimented on. After a while, Hobbs starts to catch on that he's just a test dummy. He's just a lab experiment. Convinces Stockman that he can go get Splinter and the Turtles, so he gives him basically a stipend to go work the streets to get back at the Turtles.
And all of this is stuff that they reference in the regular series.
And actually, it fades back into the regular series because, as you know, towards the end of the regular series, they start to team up with Old Hob.
I haven't gotten that far.
Okay. Well, there is a team up. And at the end, he's talking to the big tortoise monster guy who's working for Old Hob now.
Okay.
And in this story, you discover how basically Hob put together his gang. He realizes that humans are afraid of him, but also they're so scared of him they want to work for him.
Do you like the villain? Do you think it's worth having a separate series to go with all the villains, or should they have done this as a regular book in the regular series?
No, I think it's better to do it as a separate series because it helps the regular series flow on its own without having to stop and tell a bunch of backstory. I like this.
Okay.
Now, it means, as a reader, if you really want to understand more about the character, yes, you're going to have to go buy some micro-series.
Right.
So you're going to be collecting another title.
But if you don't want all that background, you can just read the regular title and just get the regular story.
Yeah, you'll get the gist of it.
Right.
So that's basically how this ends here with because there is a part in the main series where Stockman turns and shoots Hob. Do you remember that?
I haven't gotten there.
Okay. Man, you are far behind.
Yeah, I'm still on the first year.
But Hob had saved some of the ooze from when Splinter was captured.
Okay.
And he uses it to save himself from being shot.
So does he mutate more after that?
No, it just heals him.
Oh, weird.
And at the end, he's talking to the Turtles.
Huh.
So this was good. I haven't...
So it fills in the gaps of some of the
stuff. There was
a
couple of micro-series that I can't remember off the top of my head where I wasn't that thrilled about them.
Well, the first micro-series was each of the Turtles plus Casey Jones, April O'Neil, Splinter, Fugitoid.
I think April was kind of lame. I think Casey was okay.
And then the second miniseries is all the villains.
Right. The Turtles were all good. Yeah. Splinter was good too because you want to get that Splinter story because in this, Splinter and the Turtles, the Turtles are actually Splinter's sons.
Right.
When he was a samurai, he was reincarnated into the rat.
Right.
So,
well, see, that's one of the problems because I'm behind. I've been buying all of these on Comixology the day they come out.
Right.
But I'm still on the I think issue 9 is the last one I've read.
Right.
Something like that. So all of these different micro series, I don't know exactly where they flow into the story. So it's not until I read the book and they go, well, it's like that guy I talked to last week, and there's a little star that says, in the Donatello one-shot. It's oh, okay, now I got to go back and read that.
Sure. In the main title, leading up to issue 23, Leonardo has been captured by Splinter.
Now, this is the City of War or City of Fire. What is the... It's
called City Fall.
City Fall. Okay.
Yeah. And it's like a kind of a psychological thriller because Splinter is breaking down Leo and villainizing...
you mean Shredder?
Shredder. I'm sorry. Shredder is breaking down Leo mentally,
and making him turn on Splinter?
Yeah, making him turn on Splinter. And there's some really crazy art. And the frames are really cool.
Who's the artist on this?
Waltz. Eastman, Waltz, Santaluco, and Pattison. The art, the color, the pen and ink, it's really cool. I mean, this part here is really freaky.
A lot of 2-page spreads.
Yeah, it's a lot of 2-page spreads. Here's where he kind of goes nuts.
It's like so Batman the Cult.
Yeah, exactly. He goes on this mental trip. Meanwhile, Splinter and the rest of the Turtles are trying to find him.
So is this the 200 Motels version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
This is very Zappa-esque. Yeah, I guess you could say, like the claymation guy that spelled castle wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And this character here, I can't remember her name. The Fox character has something to do with this psychedelic.
Foxy Brown.
Yeah, Foxy Cleopatra.
Foxy Cleopatra. That's right. So overall, the Turtles.
These last two issues kind of put you on edge.
Okay.
Like, you're really excited. Like, you're like, holy crap, Leo's going to turn, and he's going to have to fight his brothers.
Like, okay, here's one of the things, like, with Turtles, though. It's like, there's 4 Turtles. Nothing's ever going to happen
to the 4 Turtles.
Like, they're Nobody's not going to kill Donatello. Yeah, you know what I mean?
They're not going to kill Leo.
Right. But do you think that they would be ballsy enough to turn Leonardo into a villain and have him be a villain for a year?
Probably for a few issues, yeah. I could see that happening.
But not for, like, an extended period?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You gotta have the 4 Turtles together, man.
I mean, you gotta have
and at the same time, they're still trying to figure out how to get rid of the Technodrome.
Has anyone else...
Is it Technodrome? Drone.
Yeah.
Drone. I said it right.
No, wait. That's the Cobra base, is the Technodrome, right?
Technodome. Techno something.
Oh, man. 2 men enter, 1 man leave. That's all I know. So, okay.
That's Thunderdome.
Right, my mistake. I don't even remember what I was going to say.
Think, man. Think.
I was saying something about a villain. Who's a good...
Anyways, I think...
I'm done. Okay.
I think all of the titles for the Turtles, the Color Classics, the Micro Series, the main title, they're all fun. They're all interesting. Like I said, a couple of the Micro Series I could have done without.
Right.
Like the Stockman one I thought was pretty lame too. And the robot dude. What's the robot? Fugitoid. I mean, it's actually important that you read the Micro Series on that to understand what's going on.
Well, he was in the original series, so
right.
I was kind of happy when I saw that he was in the new one.
So that's what I got.
All right, so you're all done?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we will take a quick break, and then we come back. We'll talk about some of the stuff I want to talk about.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, stay tuned for that. Also, when we come back, the Apocalypse is going to pull out his jaw harp, and he's going to play us some old tunes he learned from his grandpappy in Georgia.
That's right.
So stay tuned for that. I should wear a mask for the audio show? I'm that ugly, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I am so ugly.
Do me a favor.
I need to wear a mask for an audio show. Hate you. All right, guys. Welcome back to Comiholics, episode 34.1, part 3. This is our third segment on the show. Now, I let you have the whole last segment.
And most of the first one, too.
Yeah, well, you had a lot of stuff to talk about because you had to redo everything from the last show. So,
which I apologize if I didn't go into great detail. It'd been a long span since I read some of that stuff. But.
All right. So, one of the things I need to talk about is this book I read called Swerve. Now, there's a little bit of backstory to this book that I need to kind of tell. Why do you look like a dog who just heard a high-pitched whine? What is that?
Nothing.
Okay, all right. So
that blank stare.
You just have this look like. So I didn't know if it was me or if you just hear sound upstairs. Okay. All right. So late October, early November, I get an email from this guy, John. He says he's working on a comic. It's going to be released by some third-party publisher. It's going to be on ComiXology soon. He wants to know if we're interested in doing a review of it. And I'm like, yeah, sure. That's cool.
And then what happened, Dirt?
Well, here's the thing. He says he used to work in independent wrestling, and he wrote a story that envelops some of the stuff that happens in independent wrestling, and he built a story around it. I used to work in independent wrestling. I was a professional wrestling manager. I was also quote unquote president of a company for a while. I did some booking.
I used to watch independent wrestling.
Yeah, you came to a couple of the shows. Yeah. I used to book matches, plot out the storylines. I used to do the entrance videos. I used to run the music and all that kind of stuff. So I've done all the behind the scenes stuff. I've done, a bunch of stuff in front of crowds of people. So I was interested. I was like, yeah, send me a book. And he goes, we're going to have some promotional stuff. We'll have some, artwork, some pinup pages. I'll send you all that stuff. And I said, cool. And then I never heard from him again. Never heard back. Months and months and months and months and months go by. So a couple weeks ago, I'm searching for something in my inbox, and I'm typing in different words, doing the search.
And you have to type in Swerve.
So I typed in something. I don't know exactly what I typed in to search for, but this email thread pops up in my search, and I kind of look at it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's that guy who said he was going to send me that stuff. And then suddenly I realize there's an unread message in that thread from November of last year.
So did it attach itself to the original email and you didn't notice?
It's in Gmail, and
right.
Gmail threads all your
right.
messages, so the newest message joins that thread.
Right.
So somehow that thread got pushed out of my priority inbox. Right. And so he sent a reply back that apparently I didn't see for 8 months or whatever. So
who was this fine young gentleman that you?
So his name is John Judy. Judy, that's his last name, John Judy. And the book is called Swerve. So I realized that he actually did send me the book to do the review of.
And you felt
and I was like, oh,
compelled. To
I felt really bad because he did send me a link to the full PDF of the book, and I never saw it, never read it, and I was like, oh, I feel bad.
Right.
So I'll download the book and I'll at least read it and see if maybe it's something worth talking about, because I get, as the comic guy of the Pop Culture Network, I get a lot of stuff from people, and there's some stuff that, but there's some stuff that's really good. So I'm like, well, I'll at least give it a look, see if there's anything worth talking about. So I download this PDF that he sent of the entire book, and it's like 100 and some pages, 200 pages.
So it's like a trade paperback.
It's big. It's just as an aside, on Comixology he released each of the books separately, and it's like 7 issues, and then put it all together into one big book. So I start reading through it, and at first, he uses a lot of wrestling terms, because wrestling, it's really about the story. I mean, right. There's athleticism, there's stunts. It's basically a stunt show.
But the hook for the crowd is
the story, right? And there are different terms and different things that have to deal with a wrestling match. You've got your face, which is your good guy, your heel, which is right. your bad guy. A heel turn is when a good guy turns bad. A botched spot is when you somehow mess up and you ruin the match or whatever. So there's all these different things. He's throwing in some of these terms and stuff. But I realized that each chapter of the story has one of these wrestling terms attached right. to it. And the term that he uses for the chapter actually describes something that happens in the story. So for instance, there's a chapter called Heel Turn.
Right.
And in a heel turn, you have your good guy, babyface, who does something bad, becomes a bad guy, becomes a heel. So like Hulk Hogan.
So I'm sensing that's the main character. Is the
so heel turn. So the main guy, like Hulk Hogan, for instance, had a heel turn in
right.
the 90s, where he became a bad guy.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, and he became Hollywood Hogan.
I was heartbroken.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people were. So in the story, in the chapter Heel Turn, your main character, who's been a good guy up to this point, becomes a bad guy. Okay. He decides to turn and do bad things in order to make money, stay afloat, whatever. So I'm reading this book, and the story is set in the 70s. It's set in a regional territory. Today when you think professional wrestling, you think WWE. That's the big company. Right. They're like the mainstream.
So would you say that in the 70s, professional wrestling was still fledgling, or was that a peak?
No. It wasn't fledgling. Professional wrestling as we know it today.
But I mean, like the height that it is today. Was it peaking then, like it is? Well, not now as much, but
well, okay.
I guess what I'm getting at, was it big then?
It was big in a different way.
Like, was it on television all the time?
Oh, yeah, since the 50s.
Okay.
I mean, actually, professional wrestling.
I remember when I was a kid watching.
Right.
WWF.
In the 50s, like television came out in like the 30s and 40s,
right.
But it didn't really take off. In the 50s is when it really started to come out. And professional wrestling was actually one of those things that sold TV sets.
Right.
There were networks, like the Dumont Network, that was built on professional wrestling.
Right.
They had live wrestling, and you could watch that on TV. That was a reason for people to buy television sets in their home,
right.
was because they could watch live wrestling on TV. It wasn't until like westerns and
but it was a
sci-fi
regional thing, right? So there were probably several regions that didn't really do
so
it
basically,
as much.
they called them territories.
Okay.
And the United States was broken up into these different groups. Like Texas had a territory.
Right.
You had a territory that was like Missouri, Kentucky,
and it was
Tennessee.
kind of like unionized, wasn't it? In a sense, where they were part of a group and.
Well, the different territories came together under the National Wrestling Alliance.
Right.
So the National Wrestling Alliance covered the entire United States, but each territory was a part of the National Wrestling Alliance. So you had one champion over all of the NWA, but he would travel from territory to territory defending his championship. Okay, so anyway, in the 70s...
Did everybody get that lesson?
In the 70s, territories were big, and you would go into a territory, you'd work a territory. If you became really big... then you could move to another territory.
Okay.
As like you would say, like, I beat up everybody in Texas. So now it's time to move to California. Yeah, whatever. So this is during that territorial time. The main character is an ex-football player who got injured. He can't play football anymore, so he decides to become a professional wrestler. And professional wrestling pretty much any time, if you have an independent professional wrestling group, it's really kind of the same type of group as like a music band promoter or I don't know, some sort of freak show act or whatever. It's like the guy who's running the show is always some kind of like
ringleader, organizer.
Yeah, he's always some kind of like shyster. Yes,
yeah.
He's always some kind of dirtbag.
Not going to give Peter Parker the full amount of money,
right?
And he fronts off.
And so, and truthfully, in real life, in like the 70s, the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, guys who ran territories a lot of times were also guys who ran drugs, ran prostitutes,
Well, what a good way to move merchandise.
Well, yeah, and especially because they would move around.
Right.
So, like, for instance, we live in Springfield, Illinois. If in Illinois, you would be doing Chicago, St. Louis,
Decatur,
Indianapolis,
Peoria.
Well, Indianapolis, Peoria.
Right.
You might even go down to Kentucky. You might do like Paducah, Kentucky, Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
Right.
Whatever. So you were always traveling around the entire state plus your neighboring states. And so it was good for guys, doing drugs and moving around with prostitutes, whatever.
So obviously that leads to trouble and bloodshed and death.
And so legitimately, in real life, guys who were doing these indie circuits got caught up in the whole smuggling cocaine and selling marijuana and moving heroin and whatever. In the story, in Swerve, this guy who's the ex-football player who becomes a professional wrestler gets caught into this underworld. Because he needs to make money. His mom is sick. That's the whole reason why he gets into professional wrestling, is to make some money on the side. He thinks it's no big deal. But he realizes to make that good money, you have to get in that underworld. So it's kind of like, in a way, Goodfellas. If you think of the movie Goodfellas.
So let me ask you, Professor H. Dempsey.
That's all right.
We're gonna pull those alternate.
I was known as Professor Philip H. Dempsey. Yes.
Was there an underworld in New Midwest? What is it called? New Midwest Wrestling?
No, not in New Midwest, because New Midwest was a city,
centralized.
Yeah, we were set in Springfield.
Okay, so no drug running.
No, not within.
Nothing that romantic.
I mean, we had potheads in our group, and you don't find those anywhere. You can find them literally anywhere.
Yeah, I know.
But no, the groups that would travel around from city to city. There are some groups, still traveling around that you can find, whatever from. Jake the Snake Roberts.
Right.
You remember him from the 80s?
Yeah.
Jake the Snake Roberts became addicted to crack.
Well, isn't that what the movie... What was that movie called?
Beyond the Mat?
No. Where he has a heart attack at the end.
Oh, The Wrestler.
Isn't The Wrestler based on Jake the Snake?
Loosely, yeah.
Yeah, we were just diving into this whole wrestling thing.
So anyway,
I hope you guys are wrestling fans. Otherwise, you might want to just fast forward about.
Well, no, but here's the thing. Here's the thing about the story, is that the way Goodfellas told the story of a guy who gets kind of pulled into the mafia,
right?
And he does some bad things. He definitely hurts people. He sells drugs. He does a lot of shady stuff, but you still kind of like the guy, in Goodfellas. You still kind of feel for him,
right?
That's the same way Swerve is, in a sense. It's not like it's stealing from Goodfellas, but it's the same sense where you have this guy. He's a good guy. He's trying to help out his family. He gets kind of pulled into this dark underworld. He does some stuff he's not proud of.
He regrets.
Yes, that he regrets.
So he's a very dynamic character.
But he's also he's doing it because he wants to help somebody and whatever. So anyway, I'm reading this book, and like I said, it's a big book. Right. It's maybe 200 pages, 250. I don't remember.
Is this like a black and white book? What are we looking at here?
No, it's a full color. Here,
full color.
Here, take a look at it. I'm reading this book, and I get maybe 2/3 of the way through this book, and I felt really bad because John Judy had sent me this book to review, and I hadn't read it. I didn't know it was there, so I'm reading this book, and I'm like, this is really good. I really like everything about this book. I like the artwork. I like the story. All the characters felt real. Even though, I could look at some of the characters and you could tell that someone is loosely kind of like Ric Flair of 1974. Someone is loosely...
Pretty hardcore, too. They're really going at it.
Yeah. And everything that happens in this book... Okay. I don't know anything about prostitution or selling cocaine to Mexicans, but as far as the wrestling goes, everything that happens in wrestling, the way guys would manhandle each other to make a point when they got mad at each other, or fights that break out in the locker room, or getting a payoff, the guy would say, oh, you're going to make $100, and you get paid $20 because he says that he didn't make that much money at the show. All that stuff is real. I've been through all of that stuff. I've lived all of that type of stuff.
Well, this is kind of brutal.
Yeah, so I'm reading the story, and I'm like, this is really good. I'm really engaged by this.
The art kind of reminds me of, and it's late 70s, early 80s art.
And it's set in that time period. So I immediately, after I got about 2/3 of the way through this book, I was not only do I feel bad that I didn't read this, but this is really good. So I went on Comixology and I actually purchased the book. You can purchase the trade paperback version for, I think it's $5.99, something like that. So it's really not expensive to get the story. And this story is so well, it's so well written that there are times when I'm thinking about the story, and I think back to something that happened in the story, I don't think of it as I read this comic. In my mind, it takes me a minute to realize that I looked at drawn characters on a page. In my mind, when I think of an event that happens, I think of it as if it was people.
Right.
There are times when...
you're watching a TV show.
Right, or a really good movie, or,
right.
You're watching The Walking Dead on AMC or something like that. I don't think of it, I don't remember it as a comic, I remember it as characters who lived through events.
There's a lot of intense action going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this book. And like I said...
It doesn't look like it stops. It's just, there's not a lot of rest.
And and the same way that Goodfellas, or those type of movies... Casino's another good one, yeah. There's a lot of really brutal stuff that happens, really dark stuff, but at the same time, the character himself, he remains... There's a certain level of purity to him, that he remains a hold of his humanity, and he understands that he's being pulled into this dark stuff, and he kind of redeems himself in the end. And there's also I don't want to spoil it, but there's also kind of a twist at the end, and it's one of those twists that you don't see coming, but it makes total sense. Like there are little clues throughout the story of things that don't quite make sense to the characters, but then when you get to the end, you understand what the missing piece was. So at first it seems like it doesn't make sense, but then when you get to the end, one of the characters makes a confession, and it fills in that missing piece, and then the story, then it makes complete sense. So John Judy did a really good job of structuring the story in such a way that you're intrigued by it and you're pulled through, and then you get this really nice reveal at the end where everything kind of comes together and everything ends up working out at the end.
Very cool.
So ComiXology has this thing where you get to the end of the book.
Oh, the first issue is free.
Yeah, the first issue's free, and then the other 6 issues are $1.99 a piece.
It's worth reading the first issue.
Or you can buy the whole trade for $6.99, $5.99, something like that. So ComiXology,
very cool.
When you get to the end, you can rate it. They have like a 5-star thing, and you can tap like how many stars that you want to rate it. I gave it a 5.
Wow.
Like, I loved this. This is one of those books.
So let me ask you. Is there a cliffhanger at the end? Are we
no.
to expect any more? Or is there?
No, this wraps up. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those. You could do a sequel technically, the same way you could do a sequel with Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, even though they didn't really have a sequel in mind.
Would you say it's like a Scarface type ending? Does it end in a blaze of glory?
Think about like the end of Casino.
Okay.
At the end of Casino, he's like an old man.
Dramatic drop.
He's like an old man 20 years later.
So it plateaus, and then there's a long...
It's like this ends...
And then it just ends.
And the end is satisfying and complete.
Okay.
And if someone wanted to come along and do a Jar Jar Binks follow-up, they could. Right. But, this...
Lisa like to wrestle!
and like I said, the ending of it is not... It's a twist, and it's nothing that you see coming, but it makes total sense.
So let me ask you, because I want to lead into another book that we covered.
Oh, okay.
Would you see some? Because you were talking about how this it felt like you were watching a movie or you just watched a movie,
right?
Do you think this is a good setup for a screenplay? Could you see this being?
I could see this being a movie, but if this is a movie, it'd be 2.5 hours.
Okay, well. Casino is 3 hours.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. If they made it
they have to get Robert De Niro. And
if they
Mark
said
Wahlberg
said this is going to be a 1-season Netflix, like they did with House of Cards or something like that. If they said we're going to do it, then yes, definitely, I could definitely see it filling out
because
something like that.
A couple of years ago.
So now we're going to transition into another book. This is your segue.
I'm not trying to finish up for you here, but I just want to segue and then go back. A couple of years ago, we covered a book called Two Guns.
I recall that.
Yeah, trade paperback.
In fact, I have that sitting on my shelf. It's right underneath my unit.
I want to read it again.
On my bookshelf.
And in 5 days, the movie comes out. And I think I recalled when we reviewed that, we talked about how it just felt like a screenplay.
I think what I said at the time was it felt like one of those buddy cop movies.
Right.
That you would 48 Hours or Beverly Hills Cop or something like that.
And we talked about who would be the actors. And we got to go back and listen to it because I'd be really interested to see if we picked any of the actors, because it's Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg. Here's the thing. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
You still can't get over that?
It's still I still have that. I still have that Sega CD game. But here's the thing.
Come on.
The Wahlbergs, Donnie Wahlberg.
Yeah.
New Kids on the Block.
The Pretty Boy.
Mark Wahlberg, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Those two guys, if there were ever...
Super team up.
Two guys in 1988...
They were Wonder Twins.
That you thought were going to be good actors.
Oh, the best ever.
I mean, really.
Academy Awards
think about... No, I mean, seriously, though. Donnie Wahlberg is on Blue Bloods. Have you ever seen that show on CBS?
No.
Oh, that show is fantastic. It's Donnie Wahlberg, Tom Selleck is in that. Bridget Moynihan. I mean, it's one of those shows. It's about cops in New York City.
Okay.
And it's Tom Selleck is the police chief. Donnie is a detective for the Major Case Squad. His sister works for the district attorney's office. So it's kind of like Law and Order,
right? But
set up more of a drama.
And I have trouble with Law and Order in those types of shows.
Well, the problem with Law and Order is that it's always like one episode and done.
Right.
You know, Blue Bloods has an ongoing story all the way through it. But I mean, it's really good. Right. Mark Wahlberg, you know, I mean, he did Ted last year, which everybody loved.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in...
Which you're not a big Family Guy fan.
I'm not a big...
Did you like Ted, though?
I'm not a big fan of Seth MacFarlane. The movie was good. Yeah. The movie was good. I'll give it credit.
What was your most favorite part?
Well, of course, it's the one in the trailer that, of course, they gave away. But it's the part where they're talking about, like, what's her name?
Right.
Brittany, Sydney, Jamie, Candy,
Does have an
Mandy,
N on the end of
Candy. It. You know, it's like, oh, it's two names. Brittany Jo, Amy Jo, you know, whatever.
I like the fight when they fight in the end.
Or the part of the grocery store when Ted's working at the grocery store.
Yeah.
So
dirty teddy bear. But no, what I wanted to get at, though, just to kind of reel it back in, is a lot of times we've talked about this before. Comic books create movies; they make them happen.
There's a lot of stuff getting adapted. Yeah,
right. And it's been happening.
Me
for
and my creaky chair
long time.
In agreement about that.
Yeah. So, you want to switch chairs?
No, I just like creaking. Okay. I just like people hearing the creak.
It has that classic feel.
Down the creek.
So, do you feel that this would be in this case here?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like I said, if it was a movie, it'd have to be a long movie. But if they said that they were going to make... Like, the way Walking Dead went from a comic to a TV show...
And we talked about that, too. Where it was a great TV show.
Where it was different.
See? We need our crystal ball out.
If someone...
Producers need to start calling us up.
Here's the thing.
We'll give them ideas.
AMC, Showtime, HBO, Netflix, whoever you are, you need to get a hold of Swerve and start developing this into a series. If they said Swerve was going to become a TV series, like, I'm in. Like, I don't care what your channel is. If I don't get it, I'm going to buy it.
Right.
You know, when this comes out on Blu-ray,
he's going to tell all 4 people he knows.
I'm buying the box set. And part of it is, in one of the emails I got from John Judy, he mentions that he was a ring announcer in professional wrestling. So that's why he knows all the terms and all the backstage stuff and whatever, because he was the ring announcer. So when you're the ring announcer, you have to know all the guys. Because, you know, just to get into wrestling,
you gotta know a little bit of their background. You gotta know.
Well, for just as a wrestling aside, when you're the ring announcer, you basically have the booker that comes up to you and says, "Hey, it's going to be Terminator versus Destroyer. That's your match." You have to figure out who those guys are, and then you have to get all their stats, like what's your hometown, you know, what's your weight, whatever. So then when they go to the ring, he's like, "Now, making his way to the ring from...
welcome to the apocalypse!
From Phoenix, Arizona, weighing in at 235 pounds." You know, you have to talk to them and learn all that stuff, because the bookers, the promoters, they don't tell you all that.
Right.
That's the stuff you have to learn as a good announcer.
Right.
And so... you know, you learn all that backstage stuff, and you see all that drama. And even us, like New Midwest Wrestling, I did a little bit for a couple other groups, but 95% of what I did was with New Midwest Wrestling here in Springfield. And even with that group, there was so much behind-the-scenes stuff that I'll never talk about. And at one time, in this town, we have 100,000 people in this town, there were 3... professional wrestling groups going on at the same time here in Springfield. So there was a lot of drama.
There was a lot of drama,
in between.
I do remember you sharing a little bit of that with me. And I remember you being kind of exhausted by it. Just like, this is...
Well, because it was
wasn't it like the boiling point for you? Like, you know, this is just too much work.
Well, part of it...
What are you getting out of it?
But, well, yeah, I mean, that was one of the ones... You don't make money doing independent professional wrestling.
This is like...
You do it because you love it.
Yeah, you have to be passionate about it.
And
a lot, kind of like collecting comic books.
Kind of, in the same way. And a lot of the storylines are similar in between comics and wrestling. So anyway, 26 minutes here on Swerve. But this book, like, even if you're not a wrestling fan, the way it's put together, it's kind of gritty and dark. It has that 70s, like, exploitation feel to it. If you like any of those gangster movies, if you liked any of like the blaxploitation movies,
well,
the
reason
Grindhouse.
the reason why I was so silent while you were talking about it is I'm flipping the pages, just like kind of absorbing it.
Yeah, I'll have to send you a copy of this.
Okay, yeah, I'll take the PDF and maybe I'll splurge on the ComiXology. You said it was pretty inexpensive, right?
Yeah, it's only like $6 for the ComiXology for the whole trade of it. And it's, I mean, this is one of those things. Like, okay, I'll put it this way. I liked it so much in print, in digital, that I'll buy the print of it.
Oh, wow, cool.
And if I ever get
Is it all separate issues in?
Well, he released it as a trade.
Okay.
It was released in print as a trade, and then digitally, he released it as issues, and then as a trade later.
Well, good for him. I'm glad he's aboard on ComiXology.
Yeah,
he's
like
making some money.
The trade is $20.
Okay.
So it's if you buy it in print as a trade, it's kind of expensive.
Right.
But I like it enough that I want to buy that print.
$20?
It's to me, it's worth $20. Like I want to buy it and find him.
If
and
it
get
was
him
$29.95, would you buy it?
Well, I don't know. Does it come with a juicer? Because that's kind of the key here.
Well, what kind of juicer? Just like one of those like little melon things?
No, it's got to pull the pulp out.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But like this is a guy I would want to interview. This guy.
If you buy two today, right now.
But you were talking earlier, like we were talking off the air. The guy from Fallen,
right?
You talked to at C2E2,
right?
And you were talking about maybe doing an interview with him, and we at some point we'd like to set that up, do an interview with him. Like this is, I want to talk to this guy.
Well, I think we should cross read this stuff, and then we'll each, so that way we can both go into both interviews, and kind of have.
What would be great?
What spin-off from each of us.
What would be great is if both of these guys were at C2E2 next year. We could sit down with them.
Yes.
We could sit down at a bar, buy a couple beers, set up the laptop to record, and talk for a while. Right. That'd be nice. But yeah, like I have not been as excited about a comic book as I am about Swerve in years. And I know that part of it is because I have been involved in professional wrestling, so the book, brings up a lot of memories and ties a lot of stuff. But I think
the wrestling portion.
I want to have you read it because I think as someone who's not been involved,
right?
I think you would still enjoy the gritty, story, the underworld, the seedy stuff that's going on, and all the characters and everything that come through on it. So,
well, I have to say I'm a big fan of the classic gangster movies. All the ones we named off.
Right.
Definitely at the tops. So yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah. So that was
very exciting stuff.
So yeah, so now we're at 30 minutes on Swerve, but trust me,
this is what Comiholics is all about. Though we talk about this all the time. How much have we talked about with Marvel and DC tonight? Very little. Very little.
But actually, I do want to talk about a little bit of Marvel and DC.
Ooh. So are we going to spin this off to a fourth segment?
Although no, wait. I do want to bring up one other independent book here. Okay. This is a book called Watson and Holmes. And this is, let's see, this was a book that started on Kickstarter, of all places. For those of you who are familiar with Kickstarter, basically people go on Kickstarter and they say, I want to create a gadget, I want to create a comic, I want to make a movie, whatever. And they say, I think I'm going to need X amount of dollars to pull it off. And so on Kickstarter, you go in and you say, yeah, I think it's a good idea. I'll put in $20. I'll put in $10. I'll put in $100. Whatever, and they set up tiers of rewards. So if you pledge, they'll say something like pledge $10 and you get your name in the credits. Pledge $20 and you'll get your name in the credits and a sketch. $30 you'll get a free version of the comic, plus a sketch, plus your name in the credits, etc. Watson Holmes started as a Kickstarter project. It's from New Paradigm Studios, and they funded it successfully through Kickstarter, so they could send it out, make print copies, and then they also put it on ComiXology. And basically what Watson and Holmes is, it's about, basically, if you couldn't guess by the title, it's a modern-day telling of Sherlock Holmes and Watson, but it's two black dudes in New York City. And they're in...
Because when I think of Sherlock Holmes and Watson, I think of two black dudes in New York City.
Well, of course, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Watson is an intern at a hospital. So he's working on his medical degree, whatever.
Okay.
Holmes is a private investigator. Very intelligent guy. And they get drawn into this mystery. Someone comes into the emergency room. Watson is, the attending medic, physician, whatever. Holmes comes in to question the guy, and Watson gets pulled into this mystery of what's going on with these characters. And, the book, first of all, the book was released two different ways. One is your traditional full-color comic. Then they also released it as a noir edition, where it's all black and white, with zip tones for the gray tones in there. So you can read it as like a regular action comic, or you can read it as like a black and white film noir. If you remember Tumor, we read Tumor a couple years ago. The black and white feels kind of like Tumor in the same sense. So basically, this story is about these two guys trying to solve this mystery. But of course, if you're thinking, Sherlock Holmes in modern day, there's actually a couple TV shows out right now. One is called Sherlock, and I forget what the other one is. Elementary, I think is what it's called. Whatever. One is like a BBC production, and one is on like Fox or something. But regardless, both of these guys, these characters, it feels real. It feels like New York City. The artist who draws this book, if I can find his name real quick.
So are they on the case? Is it like,
it's Rick Leonardi.
Is this story where, is it a lot like Sherlock Holmes and Watson? Are they taking like classic stories and turning them into...
No, I haven't read every Sherlock Holmes novel. I read them in, middle school or whatever.
Right.
But it's set in kind of that same structure of the way he's unraveling the mystery, but it's in the modern day. So there's stuff, instead of having to go down to like the tavern and find information from his drinking buddy, instead he grabs the guy's cell phone and he's able to go through the information on the cell phone and find different clues. So
his deductions are technologically advanced.
Right. So everything that would have been done in a classic Sherlock Holmes is done with the modern twist to it. But the idea of these two guys...
Frankly, Watson, all I had to do was Wikipedia it.
Sure, why not? But Rick Leonardi is one of those guys. He's done Marvel and DC books in the past, so it does have that professional look to it. It doesn't feel like an indie comic. It feels like this could be a Marvel comic that came out today.
Right.
The story is really good. The artwork's really good. You can buy these. I think it's only like $1.99 an issue. The first two are out on ComiXology. So it's not like super expensive to buy these. If you buy the digital copy, they've got some bonus materials. There's like sketches and background stuff, whatever. So Watson and Holmes 1 and 2, I really enjoyed these. I enjoyed them enough that I'm going to buy like 3 and 4 when they come out. As a white guy in mid-America in a town of 100,000 people, I still felt connected to the characters. The fact that it's like two black people in New York City doesn't disassociate from me.
Right.
I'm not like, oh my gosh, this is, I can't relate.
I don't understand. I can't comprehend.
I don't understand your hip urban slang. It's still like it's a well written story. It's a well drawn story. It is told very well, and I enjoyed. I just really enjoyed reading it. I like the characters. I like the dialogue. I like the way Holmes. He's so intelligent.
Is there still that? And not all interpretations do this, but is there still that kind of slapstick bond between Sherlock Holmes and Watson, where like Watson kind of is sort of disgusted with Holmes because he's kind of a arrogant know-it-all.
Well, Holmes is very smart, but he's street smart.
Okay.
So, like for instance, they track down a guy who's at the barbershop. And so Holmes is like, we got to talk to this guy, find out what he knows about whatever.
First I got to fix my fade.
Well, no. Watson and Holmes go in there, and Watson wants to ask him a couple questions. Holmes starts getting physical. He'll grab him, and he starts like shaking him, throwing him down the chair. Tell me what you know.
Okay.
The guy's like, I don't know anything, so they leave.
So it's good cop, bad cop.
Well, no, but here's what happens: they leave, and Watson is like, what are you trying to prove by pushing this guy around? Holmes pulls out a cell phone. He's like, well, I wasn't really fighting him. I was just stealing his cell phone. So he could steal his cell phone to go through.
Okay, yeah.
So he's.
I see the street smart.
Right,
where
right. So he's roughing the guy up, not
but he's
because
not really doing it
not because he's gonna overpower him, but
Right.
because he's trying to palm the guy's cell phone
That's
without
cool.
him knowing.
I like that.
Yeah. So there's some neat stuff like that that's thrown into it. So yeah, like I said, it doesn't feel like you're reading an indie comic. This feels professional. This does feel like you were talking with some of the other books like Fallen that you read earlier. This feels like a professional comic.
I have to say, I felt C2E2 this year, there was a lot more talent at the table. Like, I felt like walking Artist Alley, I ran into a lot of talented people that had some good work that were publishing good work.
I wonder...
Like, what was that one comic that you said they just got picked up to? You stood in that long line. It was like a comic that your kid likes.
Oh, yeah, Comics.
Oh, yeah, Comics.
Right.
That was
Franco
Artist
and
Alley.
Balthazar. Yeah. Those were two guys who worked for DC, did a bunch of comics for them. Their books got canceled by DC because they were kids' books. So they kickstarted their own campaign. They got their books funded. They started their own comic company, and now like Dark Horse was like, hey, come do a comic for us. And DC's like, well, don't go away. We still want you to do something else. And yeah, so they're still doing a bunch of stuff.
So, even though don't you agree that there's a lot of talent
well, I think
at C2E2?
My own take on it is in like 2008, when there was that economic downturn, the economy started to go south. A lot of the guys who were in comics because they thought they were going to make $1 million drawing big-breasted women got out of it. They went back to their tattoo parlors or whatever they were doing. And so what you had left was, you had like the shakeout, where all of the chaff kind of withered away, and you were left with a lot of gems.
Right.
So I think if you go to Artist Alley today, one of the things I talked to you about when we first started going to C2E2 a couple of years ago is I hated walking through Artist Alley because it's like walking through the slums of Tijuana. It's like you have all these guys with like the big sad eyes. Chicolate, buy my comic, Chicolate. Like that's how it felt walking through there. But now when you walk through Artist Alley, like I noticed a big change this year as opposed to the last couple of years. Now when you walk through, it's like, oh, I recognize that guy.
Right.
Oh, I've seen him do something. It's like there's a lot of talent not in Marvel and DC. They're there because they're good enough that they can work for a no-name company and make a good product that people buy. Yeah. So I definitely think there has been a shift in kind of that back part of the comic book industry, and a lot of especially with digital, because
I was about ready to spin off.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I feel that the digital platform has carried a little bit of the weight off of the independent artist creators.
Yeah, because it used to be that the only way you could sell your comic was to convince a store to carry it. Now people can just go to Comixology or iVerse or whatever, and they can just buy the book directly. So it doesn't have to go through a big name publisher.
And I remember when Comixology first came out, that was like one of the first questions that we talked about. Was like, so what's going to happen to all the independent stuff? Are they going to, are they going to release a market for them? And we sat in on a panel where Comixology talked about, and they even coached people in the audience how to get their stuff registered through Comixology, what they had to do to get their work out there. And believe me, like talking to Chris from Fallen, going to all these different cons,
it's exhausting and expensive. Yeah,
that's yes. Yeah. It's not lucrative. They're not making money selling their books at these cons. They're not. They are, but probably most of them, if they're lucky, are breaking even.
Right.
Whereas you can release your stuff on Comixology and it can be gold.
I'm trying to remember,
especially when certain reviewers review their books and people hear about them and go to Comixology and download their work.
Like Swerve. One of the things that came to my mind was Arcana. 2 or 3 years ago at C2E2, they were doing a panel, and they talked about how digital led to print. Right. And the way he phrased it, I'm trying to remember exactly.
Digital led to print?
Well, here's, I think it was Burkett was his name, who was like the president of Arcana at the time. The way he phrased it was, if the book is released digitally, or no wait, if people see the book digitally,
they'll want it.
Then we sell more print copies.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a panel maybe 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, but the way he said it, I forget exactly the way he phrased it, but the way he said it was he didn't necessarily mean legitimately. Because digital piracy was a big thing. Like, it's not really that big of a deal now, but 2 or 3 years ago, digital piracy was like the big news in digital comics. And the way he phrased it was he was kind of saying that even if a book is pirated, right, and it's scanned into the computer,
people are still going to want it
and sold. It's like most people look at like, oh, they're giving away our comic for free, those dirtbags. But the way that the smaller publishers were seeing it is that the more people see their book,
name out there,
the more people actually buy the print copies. And there are some books, from Arcana that we read that we would never touch again, and that's just the quality of the book, not necessarily because we got a free copy of it. You know what I mean? There are books that we've seen digitally. Someone would send us the PDF, like Swerve, for instance, right, where we look at the PDF and we're like, oh my gosh, they sent us a free copy for review, but I like this. I want to buy a copy. Like, I want to own this book because it's that good. And so that was kind of the thing that they were saying, is that digital is kind of transforming the market. There's a website called ICV2. And it's like Internal Comics or Inside Comics version 2, something like that. And it's like an industry-driven website. You're not going to find a lot of creator interviews. You're not going to find a lot of, puff press releases. But they do a lot of looking at the retailer side of comics, comic sales, whatever. They were looking at digital in comics and the comic book market. And over the last 3 or 4 years, graphic novel sales had this dip where there was like this massive dive of graphic novel sales where it went way down and then it came way back up. And they realized that big dip in the middle was when Borders went out of business. Right. So when Borders was still an active bookseller, graphic novel sales were huge. Then they went out of business, they dropped, but now they've come back up. So Barnes & Noble and the local comic book stores have picked up that slack, and graphic novel sales are back up. Comic book sales, print comics sold in your average comic book shop, have gone up in the last 2 years. Part of it's because of the New 52, part of it's because of Marvel Now, but the print sales have gone up. Digital comics, like 3 years ago, was like a $1 million industry. This year, it's like a $70 million industry. Right. So digital has gone through this massive growth.
Pendulum.
Yeah. Well, no, not a pendulum. Digital is like a straight growth.
Okay.
It's like a hockey stick. It's just like it was flat for like the first 2 years and then boom, up every year since. But print has also gone up. So digital is a different market than the print market. Right. So one of the big fears,
and Lord knows we've had this conversation.
Yeah, one of the big fears several years ago was that digital was going to cannibalize print. But what they found is that print has gone up and digital has gone up at the same time, and trade paperbacks have gone up. And trade paperbacks wouldn't have had that dip if Borders hadn't gone out of business. So it's like the sales have gotten higher, the market has gotten bigger, and digital has just grown into this new market. So a lot of people buying digital are not people who gave up print. They're people who gave up on comics when they were 12,
Right.
and now that they're 25, they're going, hey, I'd like to see that, and they can just pull it up on their smartphone or on their tablet and just read it, and they don't care about owning that print copy. You know, me as a guy, I've worked in 2 different comic book stores. I've been reading print comics since I was like 5 or 6 years old. For me, I've made the switch to mostly digital just because I have boxes and boxes of comics, most of which I won't ever read again. But a lot of them...
That's only 4 years.
Yeah, that's what you have... Like, what you have
That's
sitting
just 4
there...
years.
That was like... When I was in high school...
Folks, we're staring at like over a dozen comic book... Some of them are long
short boxes. Well,
A
those
couple
are
of them
short boxes.
There's 1 or 2 long boxes in there.
But, yeah,
Cool.
what you have there is like a 4 years. That for me was like 3 months when I worked at a comic book store in high school. Because I got every Marvel and DC, most of the Dark Horse, some of the Image.
How did you afford it? What did you?
Well, because I worked there.
did
I
you
didn't
pick
take any
yourself
money home.
Oh,
You know, it's like I worked there 5 days a week,
Just for your comic
and I
books.
got no cash out of the deal. You know what I mean?
that's passion.
Because I was in high school. I didn't have any bills, you know? But, you know, for me, it's like I've mostly given up on print, but there are books that I still buy in print every week because I do want to collect those specific books because I do know I want to go back and reread them in a year or whatever. But a lot of books I just buy digital, and I like the idea of, you know, I'm sitting at someone's house, I'm bored, I pull out my tablet, I load up a comic, I can read it. I'm sitting in the car, we're on a road trip, I pull out my phone, I pull up a comic, I read it.
Right.
Like there are a lot of books,
It's on the go.
and especially
It's for the
stuff,
on the go reader.
stuff that I've missed, that it's harder to get a hold of or might be more expensive. You can buy it for cover price on Comixology because I'm not worried about collecting it. I just want to read it. So
Right.
like Prison Pit, for instance, I love Prison Pit.
Can we segue into this?
But I don't know if I can. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I don't know if I can find like the first issue of Prison Pit for cover price anywhere. You know what I mean? Like I might have to pay like $20, $30.
You go town to town.
I want to
You
read
get
it.
2 copies.
I want to read it. I want to own it. So I bought it on Comixology.
Prison Pit.
So I've got Prison Pit, and no matter where I am in the world, I can pull up my phone or my tablet. I can read Prison Pit. You know. So that's kind of the thing with digital going on. Now you wanted to bring up something. I said Prison Pit because you pulled up something on Prison Pit.
Well,
wanna
you
talk about.
posted on Facebook a Comic-Con teaser of Prison Pit.
What is a Comic-Con teaser of Prison Pit? Why don't you explain it to the people?
Well, this teaser...
Well, first of all, explain to people what Prison Pit is.
Well, okay. Prison Pit is... Have you seen Star Wars? Okay.
I have seen Star Wars.
Have you watched all of the episodes?
I've seen all the episodes.
This has nothing to do with Star Wars.
Okay. Well, what does this have to do with it?
Prison Pit is a story, and it's an adventure. A ages-old story of a man that falls through a hole in the sky and lands into basically a planet-wide Thunderdome, where he faces off with interesting characters.
With the MFer.
Yes.
With
Colorful
Rottweiler
characters.
herpes.
Yeah. Colorful characters. Leech-type creatures that will mount to your body parts.
This comic is...
It's an epic novel.
Okay, wait. The guy who did this comic...
Gigantic proportions.
He's either a genius or he's insane.
Yes.
He's either...
And we're hoping he's both.
He's either the most brilliant artist since Leonardo da Vinci...
Right.
Or he's the most repressed maniac since John Wayne Gacy.
That's right.
I'm not sure where he fits.
He may
exactly
talk
on
to
that scale.
dogs.
There
may be some dog
He
talking.
could be the son of Sam.
Yeah.
I don't know. They never found the Zodiac Killer.
That's right.
The Zodiac Killer could be Johnny Ryan who does Prison Pit. I don't know. So what's the news that came out of Comic-Con regarding Prison Pit?
There is going to be an animated story. An animated adaptation. And actually, from what I remember of the comic, this looks very spot on.
Yeah, I was going to say, the artwork, it looks
Can I
like...
turn it up? Do you think it'll do any good to play this?
It's just music. It's not really...
It's very creepy.
They took the comic Prison Pit, and they're turning it into an animated series or movie or whatever. And you can tell by the music that it's
Well, you can hear the
bizarre,
the slashing and the gashing. And it has that, like, even like the soundtrack has that feel of just like you're on an acid trip. Or
yeah, I was gonna
something.
say it's got that like 70s bizarro. Acid trip is a good way to.
You need to subscribe to Rugburn apparently
on YouTube.
Yeah. So, very exciting stuff. Very excited about that. It'll probably be watched. It'll have 500 hits from me, I'm sure, alone.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be a commercial release.
It's probably just going to be a YouTube thing. Who knows?
I'll buy the Blu-ray if it comes out on Blu-ray.
Oh, yes. $50.
$50 for the Blu-ray. I'm in.
It's 6 minutes long.
$129.99 for a 12-minute movie on Blu-ray. I'll take 3.
Or you can buy 2 for $5. Yay, exciting stuff there. And apparently this was a Comic-Con teaser, so I would have loved to have been at that panel, whatever con that was at.
Yeah, I don't know that this
I would
was
have
even...
got out of my chair and just been like, woo!
I don't know if this is even a panel. I think it may have just been a guy at a booth like, hey man,
check it out.
Watch this TV screen.
I'm going to do this animated style.
Alright, so anyway, just real quick, I want to touch on a couple things before we go.
Touch it. Pet.
Okay,
it.
You read the activity and you enjoy the activity, correct?
Yes.
All right.
You know what? I haven't gotten a book in a while.
Oh, yeah, it's been delayed for a couple months.
Okay.
There's supposedly one coming out in like a week or so. All right, America's Army.
I read the first issue.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's free.
It's clean. It's brought to you by the Army.
Right. Well, they did a video game a couple years ago called America's Army, which is a first-person shooter built upon the squad tactics and the training that actual.
It's like one of those like
military
clean war story, all-American hero.
But America's Army, they're up to like 7 or 8 issues, and it's free. You can actually go to Comixology and hit the subscribe button. And so every time there's a new issue of America's Army, it'll automatically be added to your account. And it's just really good military stuff. I really enjoy it.
Maybe it's all subliminal to get us to join the military.
Have you read Batman Superman at all? The new series from DC?
No. Explain.
Okay. It's set in the past where Batman and Superman meet for the first time. It's written by Scott Snyder. It's drawn by Jay Lee. And it's basically Batman and Superman. Does
Scott Snyder own DC at this point?
He's just so good.
He rewrites everything.
Well, he's the big Batman guy right now. But they actually get pulled into Earth 2, the alternate universe.
Oh.
And so they meet themselves later in life on this alternate timeline.
And they're like, oh, we do hate each other.
No. But they see how their lives could have been if they had done things differently, you know. So it really it's a deeper story than what you see on the surface. Because on the surface, it's like Batman and Superman. They meet for the first time. They fight. Blah 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 blah. But there is like this other
like a cake. There's a layer.
Yes,
a couple layers involved.
It's good stuff. Hunger, which is the new Ultimate series where Galactus from the normal Marvel universe finds his way to the Ultimate Marvel Universe. In the Ultimate Marvel Universe, Galactus is a swarm of spaceships that terraform a planet and
I think I
steal all the resources.
That I'm not sure. I read it. Yeah, there's a lot of late night reading sometimes. Like last night, I was instant messaging Dirt. I'm like, must read comics. Tell me what to read.
I was like, go read Scarlet Spider, Green Team, and I forget what else I told you. But anyway, Hunger... Dark Knight. Hunger is... like, I love the Ultimate Universe, and this kind of makes me sad because it's setting up the end of the Ultimate Universe, basically. Because of Age of Ultron, there's like
Galactus
this tear in
destroys the
space-time.
Ultimate Universe.
It's getting there.
Yeah.
In this one, he just basically climbs through into the Ultimate Universe. He merges with the Swarm.
Oh, look, all these planets I can absorb.
And then he's coming to Earth. Huh. Did you read Green Team?
I was going to segue into that. I read the first 2 issues.
Okay. It's a fun book. I like the take.
It's got that 80s style art.
Mm-hmm.
It's very like kind of fresh, new. It's
a fun, upbeat.
Fresh, fun, upbeat. Basically, the premise is a bunch of rich kids get together and decide, oh, we could be superheroes
because they got the money to do it. But they're like Tony Stark. If you remember
like adolescent kids.
If you remember the first Iron Man movie,
yeah,
there's the montage where he's like making the armor,
the kid?
where he's making the armor.
The first one,
yeah,
okay,
and he's like trying to figure out the rocket boots. And so he's like, I'm hovering, and then you see him like crash into the wall, whatever. And
yeah,
like, all
that's
that stuff.
these guys.
That's what this series is.
Yeah,
like, there's 4 issues of these guys just breaking stuff, trying to figure out how to make stuff work, trying to make a deal with Deathstroke to get this guy off their backs.
Right.
All this type of stuff. It's a fun, different look at superheroes.
And has this been added to the 52 because something's been dropped?
Well, yes.
Okay.
This is part of the new...
because remember, folks, DC 52, they always have 52 ongoing titles. They either cut them, add them, whatever they got to do, but it's always roughly 52.
So, like,
correct?
Sword and Sorcery ended.
Right.
Deathstroke ended. Hawkman ended.
So they
added the Movement. They added Green Team. They added, whatever. Batman, Superman. So it's one of those new books.
Do you want to talk about Scarlet Spider?
We can.
Okay, so it's issues 22 and 23.
Okay.
22 is part 2 of a storyline where Scarlet Spider's trying to fight off these like uber gangster ninjas headed by some really sexy lady with because I'm jumping in here, folks.
Right. We jump in the middle of it.
And somehow Scarlet Spider convinces Wolverine to come along. He basically bribes him somehow.
Well, Scarlet Spider.
That part I'm confused because I jumped in.
I
started reading Scarlet Spider up to issue 6, and then I stopped.
Right.
And then
I only read the first 2 or 3 issues, and then I stopped, and then I came back to it just because I do another show called Comic Book Chronicles with the ClickNation.com. And the guy who's on ClickNation.com, he said, you got to read Scarlet Spider. It's a lot of fun. So I was like, yeah, whatever. And I decided to check it out. And I was like, oh, crap, this is fun.
Now, Scarlet Spider is like the anti-Spider-Man.
Well, he's a clone of Peter Parker.
But he's the opposite of Peter Parker.
But it says, all the power, none of the responsibility.
Gray. Yeah, he's morally gray.
He's got the big-time suit from that era of Spider-Man.
That's like the light-up Tron suit.
Right. He basically...
Second Tron suit reference tonight. Thank you very much. High five.
High five to Tron. All right. So basically, he made a deal with this Assassin's Guild, whatever, to let his friends live. But in order to let his friends live, he had to assassinate somebody for them. The person they wanted killed was Wolverine.
Right.
So he meets Wolverine, and he's like, well, I'm supposed to kill you, but... I don't want to do that.
So he pretends to rip his heart out.
So he goes, well, what do you say you and me work together and we'll go kill this Assassin's Guild? So he and Wolverine basically decide to take on this whole group of gangster ninjas. And they basically get their asses handed to them.
Right.
And they have to figure out their way out of this fight. So again, not very serious, not very deep, a lot of fun. Again, you're going to go, oh, it's another Wolverine crossing over into another book, whatever. But this one, it's fun, it's different.
Right.
And I think different is part of the key.
Right.
If this was the same thing as reading a regular Spider-Man book, I probably wouldn't care that much. But the fact that it has a different edge to it...
So when did... Okay, because, like I said, I finished around issue 6. Mm-hmm. When did the spikes that come out of his arms... take place.
And like I said, I don't know because I stopped reading it too. Picked it up again.
Early on, that was not part of his thing. So basically, he has these venomous spikes he can stick into people.
I think that might be part of the suit.
Okay,
that might be part of that big time.
And then there's also the part where he kind of semi teleports. Did you notice that too? Where his body will shimmer and he'll appear and.
I think that's a cloaking thing.
Is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah, where he's kind of disappearing.
We're filling some gaps in here, folks.
So anyway, but yeah, not having read Scarlet Spider for 20 issues and then jumping back into it, I find it easy to jump into it and I enjoyed it.
And I like the art.
I like the writing and I like the art. And it's written by Christopher Yost, who's the same guy who's doing Superior Spider-Man Team-Up right now. Which, by the way, Superior Spider-Man and Superior Spider-Man Team Up are two of my favorite books that came out this last week.
Okay.
Both
I didn't get
those
the chance
books,
to read them yet. But...
Oh, man. I hope, I'm probably like one of 10%, but I hope Peter Parker never ever comes back. I hope it's always Doc Ock in the body, because I love everything.
So let me ask you, do you think he's dynamic enough that he can kind of still... I mean, so you're not interested in that character that's Peter Parker at all, in the sense of like that down and out, never quite gonna attain what he wants. He's always struggling. Do you think that like if they decide to run with Doc Ock for a while, that they're gonna still kind of stick to that premise?
Doc Ock,
because Doc Ock, in a sense, is kind of like that. You know,
well, he
never ever really accomplishes.
He's that fish out of water in the sense where his instinct is to do bad,
right?
But because his memories merged with Peter Parker's, he feels that responsibility to be good,
right?
So he always has this feeling like he needs to do what's the common good, what's the best thing, what's the best outcome, and then he figures out the easiest way to get there. And most of the time, the best outcome is easily found by doing the worst thing. So he's in that moral dilemma where he knows, like for instance, Massacre is a villain who is like the Punisher but evil.
Right.
Where he'll walk into a public place and just start shooting innocent people. So he knows that the best thing to do is to get Massacre off the streets. But if Massacre goes to jail, he's going to break out. He's going to kill more people. Right. So what's the best way to solve the problem is to kill him.
It's to Dexter him.
Like if I shoot Massacre, he's not going to shoot any other people. You know. So in that same way, that's how he approaches every problem. And I like that kind of moral struggle within him, where he wants to do what's going to have the best outcome for, innocent people, but he's struggling with that idea where he has this kind of urge to be evil and to hurt somebody.
But he uses his evil edge to do good.
Right, exactly. And like you said, Dexter a minute ago, it's like that same idea with Dexter. He wants to be a serial killer, but he wants to help people.
Right.
So he's a serial killer of bad guys. Both. Right. So not being a serial killer, Superior Spider-Man, the next best thing.
So he has that ruthless edge where he can cross that line that Peter Parker never could.
Right. And one of the things I loved about Superior Spider-Man Team Up is that there's been kind of this ongoing thing where the Avengers don't trust him. They know that there's something wrong, but they can't quite place their finger on it. And in Superior Spider-Man Team Up, I don't want to give away like the whole story, but basically he redeems himself in the eyes of the Avengers. Something happens, and the Avengers think that Superior Spider-Man's gone off the deep end, and they want to stop him, and he makes them understand that they don't know the whole story. And he ends up saving the day, and the Avengers go, you know what? I think we misjudged you. You are trying to do the right thing. You are trying to help people. And we didn't quite understand that. And so now he's back on their good graces. So at the end of the issue, he's back to earning their trust again. Even though they still don't like his methods, they understand that Spider-Man is trying to do the right thing. And
meanwhile, the whole time he's got all these villains locked up.
Yeah, there's something going on where he's been collecting these villains. And I think...
Do you think it's for like a master plan to finally take over the world?
No, actually, what I think it is the same way that he took over Peter Parker's body. I think he's capturing all these villains. He's going to take his mind and imprint his mind on all these other villains and turn them into an army of him with different superpowers.
That's pretty heavy.
So imagine Sandman, Vulture, Hobgoblin, Electro, but they all have Doc Ock's
Chameleon.
Mind. Yeah. That's how I kind of see that thing playing out. And I think that'd be awesome.
Interesting.
Once that plays out. So anyway.
Wow.
So yeah.
Good stuff.
And to think 4 years ago I wouldn't read any Spider-Man books.
And then, real quick, what did you think of The Last Invincible? Like, how are you feeling about Invincible these days?
Oh, where, what's his name?
Yeah.
basically
has
the evil guy of the last 80 issues realizes that he's been wrong the whole time. And, here's what I'll say about Invincible. Kirkman, because he has the reputation with Walking Dead, something that he's also carried over with Invincible is that he's not afraid to hurt, maim, or kill characters. And so when Angstrom Levy, when he comes back in 104, 103, 104? 103. When he attacks, if this were any other comic, if this was like Iron Man,
right, you
would say, well, Iron Man, of course, is not going to die, so who cares? In Invincible, you do get a vague sense that something bad could happen to Mark.
Right.
But his girlfriend, Adam Eve,
right,
she could die. She could be dead tomorrow.
Right.
Because that's the type of thing that he would do. So when a character like Angstrom Levy returns and he demands some sort of revenge and he's going to destroy him, you actually do get this real sense like someone may die from this battle. Like someone may actually get hurt from it.
Now, but in 104,
Mark, Invincible?
Mark is sent to an alternate universe,
right,
where there's several Marks,
right? Because that happened earlier in the series.
The several Marks are eaten by the zombie Mark.
Yeah, just like he did Marvel Zombies. There's a zombie Invincible who ate a whole bunch of the other Invincibles.
But there's one Invincible left, including the OG,
right,
original gangster,
the Mohawk Invincible,
right. It's kind of an exciting story. Like, how's he going to get back? When he gets back, what's going to happen? Is Adam Eve going to be dead by then?
And like I said, there's real tension in this because these characters might actually die. And like Adam Eve is pregnant,
right? And
so you do. The Invincible is a much happier book than Walking Dead, but there are still very dark, evil, twisted themes that run through it. And there is a real danger that she could lose the baby. And 9 times out of 10, if I said that line in connection with any other comic, I'd want to slap myself across the face. Oh my God, she might lose the baby! But when it comes across in a book like Invincible, like I'm worried for her. Like, I don't want her to get hurt. I don't want her to lose the baby.
Yeah, you kind of want to see the baby happen.
Because it does feel like real characters. It does feel like people that you care about, friends.
Well, he always sets you up and knocks you down.
Right.
Whatever character you love the most, that's the one Kirkman's going to kill.
So, so overall, I'm not a big fan of Invincible Universe, the spin-off book.
No, I'm kind of done with that.
But the core book, I think, is still really good. Yeah.
Wow. So we're going on like 4.5 hours here.
This last segment is an hour long.
Yep.
We're over an hour on segment.
The shows we've comprised them of less titles and more content, I guess, is kind of the direction we're going. So, in other words, we either like to blather a lot and we've bored you silly, or we've filled you full of all this beauty and knowledge that's going to make you want to go run out there and get on Comixology and download your, indie books.
I vote blather.
Blather.
Yeah. We just like to hear our own voices.
Yeah. So,
I'm drinking straight gin, by the way. I just have a glass full of gin. And you're drinking Busch Light.
Busch Light. Which just makes me have to run to the restroom like every 20 minutes. Which is nice that these segments have not been 20 minutes.
So anyway, guys, I'm eating this pizzeria combo, but thanks for listening.
Yep.
Again, if you're one of those people watching this on YouTube and you're like, why have I just been staring at this logo for an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, whatever?
It's because we need money.
No.
We need a studio. We need a camera crew.
Well, okay, that is true. This show started out as a podcast that was audio only. After a while, we decided, hey, let's try video. Because everybody was like, what do you guys look like? Where are you at? Blah, blah, blah. So we started doing video. When we started doing video, like the viewership, listenership, whatever, just plummeted because
we're ugly.
Because it's a camcorder or a webcam recording us for 2 hours,
right?
And so we went back to doing
up
audio.
at our nostrils the whole time.
And once we went back to audio, it was like, whoo! Everything went way back up. So we're back to being an audio show. If at some point in the future we have a studio, we've got camera people, we can do some real editing, then we may go back to doing a video show. But for now, it's an audio show. We thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this show, whatever, you're on YouTube and you're watching this, make sure you come to popculturenetwork.com. You can find out more about the other shows we do, comic reviews. I actually wrote some reviews this last week. I did a written review of Superior Spider-Man.
It takes hard work.
And Superior Spider-Man Team Up. You can check out our toy reviews. You can check out our video game reviews. You can check out all that stuff we have at popculturenetwork.com.
Don't forget, Pop Culture Network also sells toys. Sells comics.
You can go to the Pop Culture Network store, buy all that stuff.
Trading cards.
The
trading card collection has increased.
We have a physical location in Springfield, Illinois. So if you're in Springfield, make sure you stop by Killing Enterprises, and you can check out all of the stuff that we sell. And
you might even meet Dirt.
Maybe if you get there early. I'm usually there earlier in the day. I'm not there later in the day.
And Apocalypse once a month.
Yeah, you've got a big stack of comics, by the way. You need to come in and buy.
I think I have to start whoring myself out to get to middle.
So anyway, if you want to check out more stuff, make sure you check out popculturenetwork.com. If you want more podcasts, you just want the more audio stuff, you can check us out in iTunes. Look for Pop Culture Network, or go to podbean.com. Look up Pop Culture Network. You can find our podcast there. If you want to email us, you can email Apocalypse at... Is it ineedcomics.com?
No, it's just...
Comiholics.com?
No.
PopCultureNetwork.com?
PopCultureNetwork.com.
Apocalypse at PopCultureNetwork.com. You can email me, dirt at PopCultureNetwork.com, dirt at Comiholics.com, dirt at ineedcomics.com, dirtmound at hotmail.com, nmwdirt at gmail.com.
Just open up your window.
Dirt at dirtmound.com.
Just open up your window and shout out, Dirt! Apocalypse! I need more pop culture in my life. And we'll come running in our pajamas.
You can also go to jointheforums.com, which is the official message board / forums of the Pop Culture Network. And if you want to leave us a voicemail, you can call our 24-hour voicemail line.
8675309.
No, it's not Jenny. It's area code 217-953-4025. Again, 217-953-4025. That is our 24-hour voicemail line. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you want to talk comics, leave us a message.
We prefer hate mail. As much hate mail as possible.
All hate mail sent to apocalypse at popculturenetwork.com. But yeah, if you want to leave us a message there, feel free. It's a 10-minute time limit. And some of you have gone right up to that limit. So congratulations to you for that. But anyway, we want to thank you guys for listening.
Yep.
Make sure you, wherever you're at, hit the subscribe or the share or the +1 or the thumbs up or the pin us on Pinterest or link us on your MySpace page. Go to your AOL account and
CompuServe.
Put us on your Prodigy message board. Whatever it takes, get the word out. If you happen to be in the Central Illinois area, if you're going to be at C2E2 in Chicago, if you're going to be at Wizard World St. Louis, anything like that, hey, what do you know? We'll meet up somewhere. We'll have some drinks. If you're a creator working on a comic, again, contact us. Unlike Swerve, hopefully I'll get back to you within 8 months. But if it's really good, even 8 months later, I'll pimp your book if I really like it. So, which reminds me, we've got more books. I've got more books that we need to read.
We have a lot of work to do, so we need to double up. So we're going to try to stick back to our original plan of 2 episodes a month at least.
Or maybe 5, if we can.
Yeah.
Or 12. 12
Dirk's just going to move in, and we're going to do a podcast every day. So 365 days a year.
And we're going to make babies.
That's right.
So the two of us together.
Kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger and twins. That kind of thing.
Oh, no, I didn't mean with each other.
Oh.
I mean, we're just going to
have that's not what I was saying either.
A rotating group of neighborhood women.
No, I would never say that. That's ridiculous.
Anyway. I got to stop drinking straight gin because I got to drive home.
Yep. And put the combos down.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Yay, yay, yay! pee again. God, that bush light.